Hi, my name is Patricia Gilmore, and I am the reading specialist and literacy coach for the Byron Local School District. This is my second year at Byron. I moved here from Ohio, so I'm starting year 5 in Minnesota. I taught for 25 years in the state of Ohio, and yes, I have become acclimated to the Minnesota winters. So I'm going to talk to you about the assessments that we use here with your children. The first one that I want to talk about is called the BAS, and you will see that on the report cards. It's an acronym, and it's BAS, and that's what you'll see. And so that stands for Benchmark Assessment System. And that is when we look at assessments, we put assessments into categories. And so this category for the BAS is categorized as a diagnostic assessment, and that's where, if it's diagnostic, we're going to go deep and wide. And whenever I think about reading, whenever I think about remediating reading with a child, I always use the analogy of a medical model. And so I'm going to use that analogy with you today when I talk about these types of assessments. And so the BAS is my favorite, and it is like a PET scan. All right, because remember I say we're going deep and wide. So what kinds of information are we going to get when we administer this PET scan of a BAS? Well, the first thing that we're going to get is we're going to find out at what level a child is reading a text. Now, please understand that this is very up close and personal. That's why it's one of my favorites, because the child is sitting right beside the teacher, and the child can hear whether the teacher can hear whether the child uses expression, and also you actually get to get inside the head of the child, because you're going to listen to their reasoning and how they answer different levels of comprehension questions. So I have my recording sheet in front of me, the child's to my right, they're reading, and I'm recording. And so on my recording sheet, what I'm marking is I'm marking the errors. So when a child makes a substitution, I write exactly what the child said. If the child inserts a word, I make that notation as well. When the child is finished, then I count up the errors. And there are 3 levels at which a person would read a text. The first level, if a person reads a text at 95 to 100% accuracy, that's considered the independent level. And that's the level we want children to read at when we have them do independent reading, self-selected reading. We say, now you are a level J. I want you to choose J books, and those are the books you're going to read whenever you're reading to yourself or with your buddy. Now the next level is called the instructional level, and that's when a child reads a text between 90 and 94% accuracy. And that's where they're going to get instruction to be successful with that text, and typically that instruction occurs in a small group setting of a size of about 6, and we call that small group guided reading sessions. And then the last level is anything below 90%. That's considered hard text. Now this part is a little controversial, and there is research to support this though. Is that researchers say that, it doesn't hurt. It actually helps if a child reads minimal, I'm going to emphasize this, minimal amount of hard text. And I like to think about that myself and how I encounter technology. So if I always had my technology coach beside me, giving me instruction on push this button, go to your drive, type in the name, I'm not really in control. I'm not doing much struggling. I'm just listening. I'm getting instruction. But if I'm home or my technology coach is away, and I have to, first of all, remember what am I supposed to do first? What button am I supposed to do? How can I fix this? How can I get myself out of this mess? I can see there's benefit, but I can't spend a lot of my time at that level. I have to go back then and have my literacy coach or my technology coach beside me to help me so I won't be making those same mistakes. So we've listened to the child read. I've recorded all the errors. I know that the child is reading this text at an instructional level. What does the PET scan show next? Well, it actually, now we're going to analyze those errors. So we're looking for a pattern of errors. Is there a pattern? Or what are children using? What are they ignoring? And we're looking for three things. We want children to use, first of all, we want them to use meaning. When they're decoding text, we want them to use meaning. So this analysis tells us, are they? We also want them to use the structure of the language, what sounds right, to make guesses at what the word might be. And then lastly, we want them to use the phonics, the visual part, the seeing and the sound part, and to phonetically decode words. And so when we look at this, we determine that. Now the next part that we're looking for, and now we're running a PET scan through again, and now we want the PET scan to pick up on fluency. Now most people have a misconception about fluency. They believe it's fast, fluid reading, and actually fluency has three parts. And the first part of fluency is accuracy, and the second part is speed. Speed's part of it. And then the third part, lo and behold, is expression or meaning. And we want children to read with expression. And again, as I said, it's my favorite assessment. I have the child right beside me. There's only one way to know if a child reads with expression, and that is to have them read orally to you. So we have, in the BAS assessment, we have a rubric. And there's a rubric that we follow, and children are given a score on their fluency. Now the very last thing, the most important thing, is comprehension. And comprehension is the essence of reading. You know, we don't read to sound good. We read for understanding. And so, again, we're going to ask the child different levels of comprehension questions. So we start out with the very basic, which are called literal. Those are recall kinds of questions like who, what, and where types of questions. And then we progress, and the questions become more difficult, and we go to higher levels. So that would be your whys, your hows. And so when we're asking children questions like that, the researchers categorize them as beyond the text kinds of questions, and that's where children have to make inferences, or they have to take the knowledge that they've gained from the reading and apply that knowledge to answer this higher level question. And again, then when we're running that PET scan again, we're going back and we're looking, we see, you know what? The child got all the literal questions, and they only got about half of those higher levels. And so then we begin to look at those kinds of questions, and then we know now we've taken our PET scan, and now we have a prescription. Because when you get your PET scan, you know what kind of chemo you're going to get, what kind of medicine you're going to get. And so when we've given the child the PET scan, we have all of these different categories that we're going to look at now, and we know exactly what the prescription should look like and what medicine the child's going to get to help them with their reading. So that's the BAS.